Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I realize this is the first day of fall, but it feels more like midsummer. But anyway, I wanted to welcome you here and mention that I'm joined today by Pete Sepp, who's Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, as well as Congressman Wally Herger, Congressman Kevin Brady, Congressman Paul Ryan, Congressman Jeff Davis, Congressman Charles Boustany, and Congressman Peter Roskam. And the reason we're here today is each of us have received a letter that more than 300 economists have written that says that we should extend the current tax rates, that we should not have a job-killing tax hike. Now, of these 300 economists, there's included one Nobel laureate. They're from all over the country, and they're not alone. Also, others have called for no tax hikes, including the former OMB director, Peter Orszag, as well as the Speaker's chief economic advisor, Moody's chief economist, Mark Zandi, have joined as well in calling for extending all of the tax rates. And let me just read a quote from this letter, and I'm quoting here. "The promise of a tax increase in January 2011 would create significant economic distortions as individuals and businesses conserve capital or stave off hiring. And failure to extend these tax cuts would be a devastating blow to America's fragile economic recovery." This tax time bomb will explode the tax bills of every family, every senior, every small business owner by $3.8 trillion beginning next year unless we act. The unemployment rate's already around 10%, hovering at 10%. Now is not the time to raise taxes on our job creators. Somewhere between 750,000 and 900,000 small business owners would be hit by the increase in the top two tax rates. So we're calling on the Speaker, let us have a vote. Let us have a clean up or down vote on extending the tax rates, not having a job-killing tax increase, to give this fragile economy a chance to get going and to make sure that we can begin to have some job creation. So with that, let me recognize now Mr. Pete Sepp, who's Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. Pete, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Well, I could say based on the number of signatories on this letter, we have 313 more reasons to extend the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts, but really we have more than 300 million reasons, the livelihoods of every American. That's what this issue is about. We keep talking about this divisive game of who can we raise taxes on without hurting the economy. The truth is, the answer is nobody. That's what this letter is designed to show. Not just that economists support extending the tax relief, but they support extending all of the tax relief. No class warfare games. And I would like to salute all the lawmakers who are here who recognize this fact, plus 31 other very important lawmakers, Democrats, who in addition to Peter Orszag and the Speaker's former economist, endorse extending the tax cuts in their entirety. There are also senators on the Democratic side of the aisle who are saying the same thing. So what we have here really is a growing consensus that as time runs out in this Congress, lawmakers have to act and they have to extend these cuts in their entirety. There are, of course, other opinions out there. There was a letter released last week, a statement of almost 300 economists. They supposedly don't agree on everything in the statement. I don't know how that makes it a unanimous statement, but they were saying, well, let's think about raising taxes down the line to the tune of $5.5 trillion. Won't harm the economy. That view is increasingly becoming out of the mainstream. What we are seeing now in places like CNN's own panel of economists, these 313 economists, Democrats, they are saying we need to put an end to this class warfare game and do what is right for the economy now. There is too much uncertainty out in America now, too much of a risk of a double-dip recession from this uncertainty, not just from failing to extend these tax cuts, but energy taxes that constantly get repackaged and proposed in bill after bill, other kinds of taxes, the health care mandates. It goes on and on. But this is the lead issue. This is the test of Congress's will to sustain a very nascent and very weak, so far, economic recovery and try to turn it into something better. So I would say this in closing. The message from these economists is clear. A tax hike on anyone represents economic misery for everyone. Hopefully Congress will hear that message. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Every place I go throughout my rural Northern California district, people are telling me, working people, farmers, ranchers, small business people are saying, please, during a time of the worst economic recession since the Great Depression, please do not raise our taxes. I would like to plead and urge Speaker Pelosi and House Democrats to act now in the last remaining days of this session to not allow the largest tax increases in our nation's history to take place. We can do it for the American people and for our economy, for our children and grandchildren. We must do it.
Kevin Brady.
Hey, good afternoon. Kevin Brady, member of the Ways and Means Committee, also Senior House Republican on the Joint Economic Committee. How can Democrats believe the way you jumpstart the economy is to heap new taxes on the professionals and small businesses most likely to bring us out of this recession? These consumers and these tax brackets play an outsized role, positive role in consumer demand. Of course, small businesses are prolific job creators and really the key to getting us out of this recession. And don't take my word for it. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that extending all the tax relief as they are today will increase our economy by 1.7% and lower our unemployment rate. And most recently this summer, Christina Romer, the president's former head of the Council of Economic Advisors, and her husband published a report that showed that for every 1% increase in taxes, we see a 2.5% decrease in our economic growth. Tells us higher taxes mean fewer jobs, less prosperity. Final point, let's go after the myth that this money goes for debt reduction. Given their track record, who seriously believes that any tax increases will go to debt reduction? We've seen time and time again it will go only to more federal spending and to sustain a hugely bloated federal government. These tax relief measures need to go all together now.
Paul Ryan.
I'm Paul Ryan from Wisconsin. The president's been fond of playing class warfare politics. Preying on the emotions of fear and envy might make for good politics, but it's divisive and it's rotten economics. He's also been fond of saying that all the economists he talks to says that his economic agenda is the right way. I would simply suggest he needs to talk to some new economists. How about one of the list of the 300 plus economists we have from the left and the right of the political spectrum in the mainstream who are suggesting that these kinds of tax increases on successful small businesses will cost us jobs and slow down the economy. This is mainstream. We have Democrats here in the House that will vote with us to extend these tax increases from happening. And let's not suggest that we're proposing cutting taxes. That's what the rhetoric would like you to think. What we're saying here is prevent these tax increases from hitting us, from hitting these businesses, from costing us jobs. We know if we got this bill to the floor, it would probably pass. But the president and the speaker have so far decided to prevent that from happening and to usher in a huge job-killing tax increase at this time when we're struggling to create jobs. We shouldn't do that. He needs to listen to new economists. And let's not divide and conquer our country with class warfare. Let's unite us and have a prosperity agenda for this country.
Jeff Davis.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Davis from Kentucky, along the Ohio River in the manufacturing heart of the heartland. I can tell you right now that these tax increases that are being proposed by the administration that the Speaker wants to address, I would echo Paul's comments, they have no plans of using this for reduction of the debt. The reality is we don't have a revenue problem in Washington, we've got a spending problem. And I can tell you from my own experience in manufacturing, I've never heard of a tax increase that actually created jobs. What we have to do is provide stability and predictability in our economy. With the uncertainty, the unpredictability that was created and the turbulence by the government takeover of healthcare, by the push towards a national energy tax with cap and trade, if we let this go to the next step, with the reversion of these tax levels to the 2000 year levels, it will create an economic Katrina in this country. We are seeing companies going on a wave of profit taking right now, taking assets out of their businesses, giving it to their shareholders when they can get it at the lower rates. What we need is to calm the economy. This is the right proposal to put this in place. I believe they should be made permanent. At a minimum, we should extend it through the next Congress so the job creators can do what they do best, is create jobs, and those jobs created will produce taxpayers. We don't need to increase taxes, we need to create taxpayers.
Hi, Charles Bustani from Louisiana, member of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm pleased to join my colleagues here, as well as the some 300 economists and 31 Democrats who are on record as saying that we ought to extend all of this tax relief. Why? Look, there's so much uncertainty out there right now facing families and businesses. We need to provide certainty, and we need to provide it now. And the best way to do that is to extend these tax provisions. Now, what's at stake here? We're talking about American competitiveness. And part of that means economic growth. If you're going to stimulate economic growth, you got to keep money in the hands of those who create jobs so that they can create jobs, so that they can build prosperity for the American people. That's why we need to extend these provisions now. I hope President Obama and Speaker Pelosi will listen to the American people, listen to economists across the ideological stripe, listen to members of their own party in the Congress. Let's extend this tax relief now. The worst thing you can do is raise taxes in the face of this fragile economy. Thank you. Peter.
I'm Peter Roskin from the western suburbs of Chicago. You know, we hear oftentimes in the course of campaigns and governing rhetoric about a longing for bipartisanship. And what do we have right now? Right now, we have what I think and what we all think is probably a bipartisan majority in the House of Representatives that says, make these tax cuts permanent. That's true bipartisanship. Not becoming hidebound in a failed economic orthodoxy that promised unemployment would peak at 8% and now is at this nagging 10%. The Democrats have become addicted to spending. And the first thing you do when you deal with a spending addict is you get the substance away. That's what this economy needs. I think that there's a real opportunity here for President Obama and the Speaker to move forward. If they want our help in creating economic opportunity, we are here to help. But we're not going to be complicit in putting the shackles on an economy and hindering long-term economic growth.
Thank you. Thank you. Be happy to take any questions.
Sir, the True Doctors in the letter to Speaker Pelosi said they wanted a 2-year extension, and what I'm hearing is a permanent extension of these tax cuts. Can you rectify that problem? Would y'all be willing in 2 years, if you were to get the extension, to look again and say maybe we need to get rid of these types of tax cuts?
We think the issue out there is the uncertainty facing families and small businesses. And obviously, we think a permanent extension would take away that uncertainty and help job creation and hopefully get our unemployment rate down far below where it is right now. But we think at least there should be a vote on the 2-year extension. We're calling for a clean up or down vote. At a minimum, there should be a vote on a 2-year extension. We all believe that a permanent statement would actually help take away the uncertainty that so many employers are factoring in when they're not making that decision to hire somebody new.
What do you think of recent polls that show the majority of Americans actually want high-end tax cuts to expire?
Well, I've seen a lot of polling on that, and I guess I would say that when you really look at those, what they'd really like to see is some job creation. What they'd really like to see is some economic activity. And we have here from 300 experts from different parts of the economic and political spectrum coming forward saying it would actually hurt our economic recovery if we don't send a strong signal on taxes. And so I would say, many people want us. I think clearly with the departure of Larry Summers, this administration's economic team has failed. And what we want to do is make sure that there's an opportunity for employers to create jobs, bring some certainty, and that's what we'd like to do.
How would you pay down the debt that continues if you don't raise taxes? Especially, you talk about spending addiction, but a lot of the spending is on the defense side. $100 billion war. Would you cut that, or would you do all of the cuts on the domestic side?
We're not trying to get into a detailed policy analysis today. Certainly that's going to be coming. A lot of our statements, the leader will be addressing that later on in the week. There's a lot of ideas out there on that. But we think it is absolutely important. I think John F. Kennedy said it best, a rising tide lifts all boats. That we not do anything to hurt economic growth in this country. Hundreds of experts have come forward, and as I said, even a former Nobel laureate, and they've said if taxes go up in America, it will hurt economic recovery, but more importantly, it will hurt families and individuals. Everybody will see a tax increase. People will not get hired. There will not be the kind of economic growth that we need to see. So I think it's important to step up. We have a clean, clear vote. Let the Congress reflect the will of the people. Let us have a vote on that. Let us have an opportunity. And as others have said, I believe there is a bipartisan majority that is willing to move ahead and bring some certainty to this issue and end the guessing game on whether taxes are going to go up by $3.8 trillion or not. All right, thank you. Thanks a lot.